Okay, the color page of your packet. First exercise. Color the color wheel by using only the primary colors to mix the other colors. So you'll be adding red, yellow, blue, and then mixing those to get the other colors. Make sure you've got a palette, 2 cups of clean water, an empty palette, and decide if you like the flat or the round brush better. Okay, first thing, let's get our primary colors in there. Make sure your brush is wet with clean water, and then you just want to actually drip that into the palette and let it sit for a minute to kind of activate that paint. And it's okay to go do something else for a minute and come back to this because you want it a good consistency. Watercolor is supposed to be transparent, okay, see-through, but you don't want it too transparent. You want some kind of pigment down here on the page. But also don't try to use it like acrylic where you just sort of plaster it across. That's not really what watercolor wants to be. Okay, when you're ready to switch colors, you want to give it a good rinse twice. That's why we have a dirty water cup and a clean water cup. And if either of them get dirty, go ahead and clean them. So now I've got a clean brush. I'm just going to repeat that process for my yellow and for my blue. Okay, I'm ready to do my secondary colors. And the best way to do this is to, with a clean brush, remove some of this paint and put it into this palette. So what I've got here right now is just the pure yellow, blue, and red. Now to mix, what I want to do is always take the weaker color, start with that, and then add the stronger color. Rinse your brush in between so you don't contaminate your colors. And then always start with a very small amount of your strong color because it will instantly go overboard, which that just did. It's already too red even with 1 drop. So I need to add either more yellow to that, or probably what I'll do is just take this and add it to my yellow, because I know from experience that it's almost impossible to add yellow and get a good result, but that looks like a pretty orangey orange to me. So I can put that on my yellow and red section. If it doesn't look quite orange enough, that might be too yellow, you can very carefully add some of this that I thought was too red. It's watercolor, so it's forgiving. I think that's pretty good. And that'll look better as it dries. Okay, so you want to repeat that process for green, yellow and blue, make green, and purple or violet, which is blue and red. For the violet, you want to start with red, add tiny bits of blue. For green, start with yellow, add tiny bits of blue. Blue is always our strongest pigment with the 3 primaries. Okay, I'm not loving my green. I think it's a little bit yellow, but with this particular set of paints, that might be the closest we get. Purple down here, purple's always going to be one of your most challenging colors. It's almost always going to try to tend to be more red or more blue, so you really have to mess with it until it's this color that I think of as like a grape Kool-Aid. That's pretty close to a really pure violet. And use the big color wheel that I have at the front of the classroom to kind of compare your colors and see how close you are. Now down here, color complements. We're going to mix color complements. Remember, complements are across from each other on the color wheel. Okay, So you're going to have red and green, yellow and purple, blue and orange. And when you mix them, you're going to get a neutral color. Okay, for our purposes of doing these color complements, up here they want you to mix those secondary colors. So you're making orange, you're making green, you're making purple. Down here, I don't want you to worry too much about mixing your own colors because they can be not as accurate. It's okay to take these colors right off of your palette, the green, the orange, and the purple, and then we'll mix them with the primary colors. So I've got my palette set up here, and you can see this is that green I tried to make, and it's a little too yellow, so I pulled some green right off of the palette. I think that's going to work a little bit better, and I will show you some tricks to mixing those. Okay, so the trick with mixing these is you have to know which is your weaker color. So if we're going to do red and green, you're going to want to start with the green and add a really small amount of red at a time. It's easy to go overboard with this, so just take your time. Okay, that's still looking green. Now you see what's happening here? This color is like a grayish color. That's perfect right there. It's not red, it's not green, it's a neutral. Okay, these colors will always be a grayish or a brownish color when you mix these complementary opposites. And the key is just to make sure you don't go too far in one direction or the other. So here's my, sorry, my color's not working real well. There's my orange. And again, tiny bit of blue. And blue is so strong, you've got to do this slow. And you just have to watch it, and you just have to make sure it's not orange, it's not blue, it's somewhere in between. Now, what is the point of doing this, other than giving you good practice mixing color? The point is, when we paint with watercolor, we don't use, oh, there you go. Look at that color, that's really nice. Again, my color is not doing great here, but there we go, a nice grayish color. When we use watercolor, this black and this brown that are on your palette, try not to use those. They make your painting really flat and kind of dull. And when you use these mixed colors, they're just a little bit more natural and they give your painting more life. So that's why we practice doing this. This is also the color that you'll end up with right here. It's kind of a grayish or brownish, depending on your color combinations. And you'll get the same thing with your yellow and your purple. Okay, so there is my almost complete color sheet. Here's one that I did earlier, and you can see those comments. I think my purple didn't turn out great there, but pretty close. And of course, if you have time, go back and color.